Today's segment of Oh Brother is sponsored by Daviston Insulation. Visit them on the web at davistoninsulation.com to find out how you can reduce your energy bills by up to 30% and receive a tax credit in the process.
So southern, they'll get up for you for nothing. Take this brother I've known for
Holy moly, it's Thursday here on Oh Brother and Reed. It's not just any Thursday. I think it's the best Thursday of the year.
It's the most wonderful time of the year, I would say.
Yeah, you're listening to Oh Brother. I'm Will Lochamy along with Reed Lochamy. This is a podcast that you can find at ohbrotherradio.com or on iTunes. You just search Oh Brother. You can email the show with any comments or questions, ohbrotherradio@gmail.com. And, of course, follow us on Twitter at Oh Brother. Now, Reed, it's the most important Thursday of the year because it's the beginning of college football.
Today, as a matter of fact, September 3rd is the air date for today's segment, and it marks the beginning of the season. South Carolina versus NC State is the first official game, which really I wouldn't normally care about that game at all, but it is a college football game.
And
so
SEC.
Right. That's true. That's
We're
right.
dealing with the SEC here. Now, Reed, it's Thursday, so we always have Three's a Crowd on Thursday, which is where we bring in a guest.
That's right.
And today, it's a very special Thursday, so we have a very special guest, a legendary voice in college football, the voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, Eli Gold, joins us. Eli, welcome in.
Thank you, guys. Good to be with you this morning.
Great. Now, the way we start all these segments is Reed will ask 3 questions. They're pretty easy, no pressure.
It's just sort of an introduction of sorts.
Right, so Reed, fire away.
Okay, Eli, first question. This is what we always ask of our guests. What is your name?
Well, I've been called a lot of things over the years, but I usually answer to Eli Gold.
Okay, that's good. See, that's a solid start for Eli. Eli, second question. Where were you born?
I was born in a hospital in Brooklyn, New York.
See, good answer. That's my favorite. Nobody ever gives that answer.
No one.
And
no
it's
one
the one I always
given
hope for. Good. And Eli, third question. If you had to change your last name, but your new last name also had to be the name of an element in the periodic table, which one would you choose?
I guess I'd probably go to silver. Having already exhausted gold for 50-something years, I would try silver.
Eli Silver. I like it. It has a ring to it. Will, you got a question for Eli? What's our first question?
Yeah, getting right to the football questions. I don't think it's any surprise to anyone that Coach Saban was able to come into Alabama and turn that program around. But how fast he did it. Did that take you by surprise? That catch you off guard a little bit, how quick he turned the program around?
I think it probably did. I don't know if anybody necessarily expected that the team would run the table in the regular season last year. You knew that there was talent. You knew there was depth. And, yes, you know that Nick Saban has a resume that is pockmarked with championships. But to say that I knew that that was going to happen last year, well, that would be a fib.
Right.
I think some people maybe were a little bit nervous after the La Monroe bump in the first year, but then, of course, very quickly, almost like it never happened, right back to number one in the nation.
Well, you know, when Coach Saban came into LSU, they lost to UAB, which at that time was still a program in its embryonic stages, and then the next year they won the national championship there on the Bayou. So, you know, you're going to have those bumps. You're going to have those transitional periods. But last year was very, very much a special year.
Well, speaking of last year, coming off of an undefeated regular season, just dominating the SEC West, and then, of course, having the heartbreaking loss against Florida, and then just sort of a strange kind of letdown against Utah. How do you see Alabama rebounding this year, sort of mixing the confidence from the regular season last year with the sort of, you know, I don't know what you'd say, the letdown in the postseason, I suppose you'd say?
Well, the defense certainly is very, very strong, blazingly fast. And as coaches will tell you, defense wins championships. So I'm encouraged from that standpoint. Obviously, on the offensive line, as we are now a couple of days away from kicking it off, you know, there are some new faces. You know, regardless of who exactly gets the starts, there'll be 3 new faces on the offensive line, and obviously Greg McElroy, very talented at quarterback, but a man who has a limited amount of collegiate experience. So, I'm confident. I like what I see, but obviously going into a 70,000-seat jam-packed stadium on Saturday, half wearing crimson and white, half wearing maroon and gold, it's going to be, a first-time experience for some guys, and you don't ever know exactly how they're going to react until you see it and experience it.
Well, and that actually leads into my next question. Everyone thinks of quarterback, and rightly so, as being one of the most important positions on the team. And with McElroy coming in as a first-time starter this year, my question was going to be, what do you think is the bigger question mark for Alabama? Do you think it's McElroy at quarterback, or do you think it's what happens with the offensive line in the post-Andre Smith era?
I think the offensive line is the key, personally, because if they do their job, that will give McElroy plenty of time to do his, and he is a very talented young quarterback. The guy understands the playbook as well as the coaches. He himself is the product of a dad who works for the Dallas Cowboys. He has been a wonderful student of the game, let alone a wonderful student, period. But if McElroy, I don't care who it is, I don't care if it was, look at what happened when John Parker Wilson didn't have time to work. Well, there were mistakes made. So the key is, whether it's James Carpenter or Tyler Love or whomever it is at left tackle, I assume Vlahos at center, whether you have a Barrett Jones or a John Michael Boswell or a Brian Motley at right guard, and, of course, Drew Davis at the right tackle, those guys have to do their job. If they do their job, McElroy has time to work, and as we have seen, case in point against Auburn last year, when given time, he's as good as anybody.
Now, Eli, as a longtime member of the media, what's your take on the relationship that Coach Saban has with the media? It's interesting, to say the least.
Well, I am not a real member of the media. Let's start with that. A play-by-play guy who works as the voice of a team, who does not have a regular call-in show, who does not have a newspaper article or a column, you are not mainline media. So my relationship with Coach Saban is far different than the guys who work side by side in covering the team day in and day out. So I don't know if I'm really able to make that comparison. I hear that he can intimidate this one, he intimidates that one, he can be a little, I don't want to necessarily say harsh, but very direct. But he and I sit down, we have private visits, we talk and record shows and stuff like that. So I don't know if I'm truly qualified to answer that, because my relationship and my work approach with him is far different than the beat writers and the daily talk show guys and the TV guys.
Do you think it's fair to say that he's gotten somewhat of a bum rap from the national media because of the whole leaving Miami situation, that it seems like a lot of these guys sort of have an agenda Nick Saban can do no right, so to speak? But you, from your personal contact with him, you think that's not fair?
I don't think any of those guys, I can't say what's fair or not. Everybody looks at